Get the KQ Morning Show podcast wherever you listen. 92 KQRS.
Yep, it's me, Mike Evans, your Hollywood reporter. Before we get into some show business, don't forget Marcus Theater. Don't forget every Tuesday, $6 will get you in to see any movie you want to see at any Marcus Theater. Marcus Theater is the best. All right, we got some TV news. You know, with the strikes last year, there was a lot of very bad network shows. And much, much better shows were airing on streaming platforms. And because of that, the ratings for the networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, were a disaster. I got a prediction for you. Networks will basically be gone in the next 10 years. If not sooner, they simply can't compete. Movie news, with the strike last year, a lot of movies were put on hold, just shut down. And then came the settlement. But shortly after that, Thanksgiving, then Christmas. Translation. So there was a long period where everything just stopped. But now studios are firing up 100% beginning next week. Movie productions will be hitting an all-time high. Show business, back in business. Hey, which brings me to Jennifer Lopez, who is gearing up to star in a movie that she bought the rights for years ago. So the movie is called The Godmother, the true story of Griselda Blanco, known as the Black Widow, the bloodthirsty cocaine drug lord from Colombia who controlled the drug flow into the United States for decades. You know, she was feared by her competitors as well as authorities. Finally, on September 3rd, 2012, while leaving a butcher shop with her daughter-in-law in Medellin, Colombia, an assassin on a motorcycle gunned her down. Jennifer Lopez is going to play Griselda Blanco in this movie. They start shooting it next month. I think it's going to be a huge, huge film. Odds and ends. So Pierce Brosnan was shooting a Western called Unholy Trinity in Wyoming, actually in Yellowstone Park, when he started looking for new places to shoot his movie, ignoring signs, stay out, restricted areas, violators subject to arrest. So Brosnan just ignored the park rangers when they confronted him. He was quick to say, "Don't you know who I am?" Well, the park rangers didn't care. He was arrested, let go the same day, of course. But on January 23rd, it's been kept quiet. Pierce Brosnan is going to be facing a judge, and we'll see what happens. Hey, have a great day. I'll be back tomorrow. Till then, you are dismissed.
The best of the KQ Morning Show.
In a world where we hardly need new podcasts, there's one that I think we actually do need, and it's long overdue. Yeah. It's a great podcast called Really No Really. It's hosted by Jason Alexander and his good friend Peter Tilden, and I'm thrilled to talk to the both of you. The podcast is fantastic. The hardest part about being in a rock band and hosting a podcast, it's the same thing, and that's simply coming up with the right name. Really No Really is a great name for a podcast. Who do I tip my cap to?
Well, it's all Peter, Steve, but it's only because "Oh Wow" was taken.
All right, fair enough. That's pretty strong. You guys go back a long way, so is it safe to assume this podcast is really just inspired by the fact that you're sitting around arguing constantly and finally said, let's record this?
Yeah. Well, Steve, we argue all the time, and I looked at him, and he looked at me and said, why waste this?
Share the ennui. Let's bring everyone into our ridiculous angst. So, Peter, I guess you're the race car driver. You're just drafting off of Jason's speed in this endeavor, taking full advantage of his celebrity status.
Exactly. That was pretty concise and succinct and terse.
Wait,
right?
Peter, you pitched that I was riding in your wake. I never. Oh, really? I'm the tip of the arrow?
Have you seen my wake, Steve? Have you seen my wake? Anybody? There's no wake. Look, Jason and I have done projects together for, it's almost 30 years. And part of the fun is coming up with stuff that we can do together because we are best friends and to love each other. And then the minute we launch the project, the arguing and the yelling begins.
Well, yeah, of course. It's, hey, go into business, man. There's nothing that's going to screw up a friendship any quicker than that. The pressure mounts with every episode, I'm sure.
You've been in a rock group. I mean, you were the Black Crowes, right?
This is true.
Well, and you know the arguments. After the first record comes out, everybody starts arguing, then people leave the group. There's threatening, there's lawsuits. We just get it quicker because there's only two of us.
You're describing, it's like the Garden of Eden to me, only having one person to work with and fight with. And also, I'd love to say that we started fighting after the first record. That would have been way better than the reality of that. But, you know, that's a story for a different day. This podcast, Really No Really, it is a great concept. podcast. You have these questions. You ask yourself, why does this happen? And then you go find out an expert who can actually illuminate and educate the two of you. Is there one fact or one thing you've uncovered so far? Well, I should say, what has blown your mind the most for each of you? Is there something where you honestly were like, I cannot possibly believe this is true?
It's not that it was impossible. It's, we recently aired one with Garrett Reisman, who is a NASA astronaut who's had several missions to the space shuttle. And we were talking specifically about space junk, all the debris that's floating around up there that poses a fairly significant danger to these people. And he was talking about he and another fellow doing a spacewalk, and they went out to retrieve like a handle, like a steering wheel that he said was a half-inch of solid aluminum. And they got back in the airlock, and all of a sudden there was a hole straight through that thing, which means that while they were walking with it out there, a piece of debris went through it at 17,500 miles an hour. And they said, if that had hit us. So that's the
oh, my God.
You said it. We learned from every one of these interviews. That was the important part, that there's humor and there's our friendship and the bickering and all. But what you learn, and to continue with him, and I just talked to him the other day, the astronaut, he's got a device in his suit where he can drink, because you got to stay hydrated while you're out there. And he saw a little thing floating in his helmet while he was out there, and he went, oh my God, the cap broke and I'm going to drown in my own helmet.
Oh, jeez. I'm not ready to go to the moon yet. Why are they giving us rides up there? Someone's going to get hurt.
Exactly. Yeah, it seems like such a lark. We also talked to Bill Shatner, who said, they told him if he had a cardiac event, the G-force going up and going down would probably restart his heart. We went, oh, really?
We're losing Bill. Pointer down. Our guest this morning, Jason Alexander, Peter Tilton. The podcast is Really? No, Really. It's baffling, intriguing, life's questions, confusing, annoying questions. I love the headlines of some of these. Talking dogs, stoned dolphins, and screaming wheat.
There's so many things that baffle us or make us crazy. The first one, the bathroom door doesn't go to the floor, is a Seinfeld joke from Jerry. But the answer to that is you're sitting in a stall where you want privacy, and it's the illusion of privacy. You can see people washing their hands. You can see they can't make it, and then you wonder, why are we okay with that? And then why do we put cameras in our homes? And if a neighbor stared at your house all day, you go yell at him, yet his Ring doorbell's recording you all day, and we're okay with that.
Is there anything that you guys have come across that you stopped the podcast and said, we can't do this?
No, we said to each other, we're going to do things that are fascinating to as many people as possible. We are not interested in anything that is divisive. The show is about education, fun, and funny, and two friends hanging out. And so there really isn't anything that we go down the road with that we would turn back and say, that's too heavy or that's not appropriate. Right. It's something anybody can listen to and have a great time.
That's fantastic. Really? No, Really is the name of the podcast. I get that you guys don't want to be divisive, so let me go ahead and throw a wrench in the works. Last question, gentlemen, for both of you. Beatles or Stones?
Beatles.
Yeah, Beatles. What are you, an idiot?
Listen, I as I always say when it comes to musical opinions, there's no wrong answers, but you both answered that one correctly, so well played.
There's wrong answers, a lot of wrong answers.
Hey, everybody's taste is their own. Now, we can mock your taste after you hang up.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, cheers, fellas.
The KQ Morning Show.
Yeah, poop porn. That's always weird. We just don't understand it, right? I mean, it's what trips someone's trigger. I know a gal once that only could have an orgasm when she had to poop.
So you took her out for tacos like nightly.
Yeah. Constantly bringing home prune juice again. I'm going to make you a cosmopolitan with this fantastic prune juice I picked up today.
You would twist on the old-fashioned.
The best of the KQ Morning Show.
Can we actually smack each other around, or is that not cool anymore?
It's fine.
Is that fine, Ken? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Candace is our HR person. Boy, if Candace was HR,
man,
boy, it'd be like Rome, late 3rd, 4th century Rome.
Hey, man, it wouldn't be my first job where there was people smacking each other around. Now that I'm thinking about it.
I've read the book, by the way, Hard to Handle, The Life and Death of the Black Crows.
Oh, listen to that pitch.
How did Chris Robinson put it? I think this was in Rolling Stone. I read this. We're from Georgia. We effing knuckle.
It was funny you mentioned that quote because Robinson used to say, we're from Georgia. And I was always like, what does that even mean?
Right. Doesn't matter.
Well, I got beat up in Wisconsin once. Isn't that the line from Stripes? I got my ass kicked in Wisconsin once. It's like, it doesn't. We're from Georgia. It was always the thing with him. He really thought like only people from the South will fight, and I used to go, no, only people from the South think it's cool to have an honor code. Like, you say, did you look at my girlfriend? We're gonna fight. I choked Robinson out at a frat party in Auburn, in Alabama once. I was so pissed. I broke up fights. I got in the middle of one. There was one in San Antonio where I got it. We separated them, and Rich threw an errant punch that hit me, so I then punched him. And this is 2 minutes before we walked on stage.
Oh my God.
And I've never hit drums harder because I was completely adrenalized. 100% adrenalized, and we walked out onto stage at the Sunken Gardens in San Antonio, 95. And I remember we opened with a song called P25 London, and I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it was crazy.
Didn't start with the ballad.
No, not on that good night.
There's a passage in your book where you talk about there's some kind of brawl and you guys end up tumbling down the stairs, and it's this great visual.
Well, that was the best Black Crowes fight ever. Just the way it started. It was Oxford, England, and we were in the dressing room after the show. And it was a Sunday night, so the venue hadn't served beer, so the crowd was really dead. And this was one night after we had played Moscow. We were in Russia the night before, playing to 600,000 people with Metallica, and it was a crazy, bizarre escape from the third world. We fly back to England, go to Oxford, and then we play this gig that's really, the crowd's just staring at us like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? And, Chris was telling them during this, hey, guys, like, this is happening now. Why don't you have fun? Let's go. Yeah. And it was just a weird night. We're in the dressing room afterwards, and two fans, dudes, somehow walk right past all the security guards positioned in the backstage area. They walk right into the dressing room, and this guy walks right up to Chris, who's standing there holding a harmonica. And this guy walks right up to him and goes, listen, mate, next time you play a venue, don't serve beer. Don't take it out on the crowd. And I'm like, oh, God, this is going to end poorly. But it was so funny. And Robinson goes, oh, really? Here, watch this. And he just threw the harmonica up into the air. And so the guy, like a dog, he's tracked it. Like, where's that going? And as the guy's tracking the harmonica, Robinson punched him in the mouth with everything he had. I mean, full on from his heels. Yeah. And he knew
brought it back from Georgia.
He did know how to throw a punch. I mean, it's not, he was a tiny, skinny guy, but he was he didn't mind knuckling.
Yeah, he was a scrapper.
He threw this punch into this guy's mouth, and there was that moment, he just pow, and then it just freezes in the room. And his buddy sees it, and I'm like, oh, and I just jump up, and suddenly two of those guys and me and Robinson are in a scrum. And it's just, we're punching, kicking, grabbing. And then our bass player is in the hallway, has no idea what happened, but he just jumps into, and it's three of us and two of them.
Oh,
and
man.
that scrum, we just went down the hallway, into a stairwell, and then down the stairs, a 5-man just jumble. It was literally like a rugby scrum. Oh, it's completely insane. The best band fights I ever saw weren't when someone throws punches. It's like 3 months of passive-aggressive insults. Like, it just, you get around bands and right away you can tell, like, oh, this is simmering so, it's on low heat, but it's 4 years in. You could just smell it in the room. I always said bands are just groving packs of dogs. You sniff each other, and right away you know what's going on with this other band. Oh, wow. Why did we get there? I did not mean, because I said, can we smack each other? And next thing you know, we're telling old war stories.
It ain't nothing to me to whoop a man's ass.
That's right.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS. Back to the best of the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
Let's move into social time and embarrassing moments. We've all had plenty of those, but this is a true story that a woman shared where she was on a date. They wound up going back to the dude's place, and she excused herself because she had to go. Number 2 got up, went to the bathroom. The toilet wouldn't flush. Oh. She panicked because she's at this guy's apartment. She's thinking something might happen. We might get a little bit of bow, chicka bow, bow, chicka backa bow, bow. And she's got a deuce in the toilet and it won't flush. These are her quotes. I got the toilet paper. I removed it. I wrapped it in multiple layers of toilet paper. And she didn't open a window and throw it out. She didn't put it in the trash can. She put it in her purse.
For later.
No.
Put it in her purse for later. Maybe she's a lab technician. She wants to analyze the sample. She said said she went back to the couch. They started making out. And then all she could think about, of course, was that there's a piece of her own poop in her purse, which that checks out. That part I relate to. Dude eventually went to the bathroom, realized it wasn't working. He fixed it, and later she snuck in and then flushed it as she should have done earlier. I'm having a hard time with this one. Is it really that embarrassing to go out and go, hey, the toilet doesn't work?
Not to a guy. You could literally come out and say, "Ooh, I accidentally crapped on your floor," and the guy's going to go, "Oh, hold on, let me clean that up." If you're on a first date and things are working, I'm saying you don't have to overthink it like that. If it were the other way around, one time after dinner, come on in, have a drink, and I'm thinking to myself, better go home and take care of this. But she seemed really enthusiastic, which got me all fired up. And I said, all right, you know what? This will settle. I'll be all right. We go inside. She grabs a beer. But no, it's coming now. It's happening. So I go into the bathroom, and the odor, it was so strong that when I walked out, neither one of us said anything, but there was the buzz was killed. There was no there was no
happen.
leaning in for a kiss after that. I was like, well,
that's a tough one, man.
over.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Smooth talker, you.
Paint peeling off the walls.
Yeah, that's a sting that'll linger. I had a similar experience many years ago. A young lady and I, we'd been circling each other in the clubs for a while, and we had a night to remember. Which I would love to forget because I woke up after a few hours really hungover. I go in, I got to take a leak. I go into her bathroom. The door doesn't shut all the way. It is like you just described. It's an apartment, but it's a very small apartment. I sit down like a gentleman to pee. And as I'm sitting, what happens to me is the draft beer comes back to give me a little bit of what I would call, let's just call it a little bit of gas. But instead of a little gas, let's call it a tremendous amount of gas.
Yes.
Let's call it like methane poisoning. And it was so much that I'm just laughing. I couldn't stop just sitting there like laughing, going, this is unbelievable. And thank God she's sound asleep. Or she had been, because when I walked out of that bathroom, the look on her face looking at me, and it was just the immediate, yeah, I'm going to go now.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And she's not the one.
You're just giggling as you're firing
Great
away.
gal. I was like, this is unbelievable. That was it. That was the relationship in a nutshell.
It's probably the same for women, but if you have one of those one-night love affairs and the guy's just in a hurry to get out of there in the morning, the guy really wants to get out your front door and fart. But women might do the same thing. I don't know.
You know,
Candace?
if you don't want to fart around me, that's cool, but I should be able to fart around you. Otherwise, you're not the right guy. I've noticed the guys that are weird about farting are not the right guys, and the guys that are cool about farting are pretty cool.
Do you purposely do a test? Let one fly just to see what kind of cat he is?
Well, what am I going to do?
You don't want to keep those toxic fumes inside of
Yeah, you
My
shouldn't.
gosh.
Looking
That's
good.
unhealthy. Yeah. Feeling good.
Whatever.
Is this-
I don't think farting is a big deal. Maybe.
This is probably an appropriate time to share with everybody, if you haven't already figured this out, that I had Indian food last night.
I smell curry.
It's going to...
Leftover curry.
The best of the KQ Morning Show.
Am I the Jerk segments? We've got a couple we want to share.
We're going to start with Ian. Is he the jerk or not?
I'm actually going to get married, and I made my brother my best man. I let him know all the duties that it entailed, and he's getting next to nothing. My best friend, I let him know some of the duties that my brother hasn't been doing, and he's been nailing them. Here's my dilemma. Because he's my brother, should I make it two best men? Or what I really want to do, he doesn't deserve the title, and make my best friend my best man. Am I a jerk for doing that?
I got to start with this one. He says, I asked my brother to be my best man. I let him know all the duties. It sounds like there's a bit of a laundry list for this guy.
Yeah, he's a little controlling. I've been a best man 5 times.
Uh-huh.
And you just, you coordinate a bachelor party of some sort.
Right.
And you give a nice toast.
Yeah.
Adios.
I thought that was
That's
about
it.
the extent of it.
For
Apparently,
guys,
Sleep with the bridesmaid, too. Don't forget that part.
I mean, it's not like for girls, there's more things involved.
Shouldn't have a checklist.
I think it's perfectly fine to have the best man you want to be the best man. I don't think that... Look, I was my brother Doug's best man at a wedding in 1985. He made a big mistake asking me.
I'm thinking of my brother's first wedding when I was in my early 20s. I was the best man, and I didn't take it very seriously.
same
I did
thing.
show up drunk and late, to the wedding.
Ooh.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
well, you make me look like a great guy all of a sudden.
Right.
Zep, thanks. I'm feeling better about my poor performance back in '85.
Jerk.
Candace?
I think he's a total jerk.
She thinks they're jerks because they found love and got married. No, I'm teasing. Now we'll turn it over to Yasmin.
I arrived at the restaurant a little bit early, and I sat at the bar, and this guy next to me offered to buy me a drink. So I said, sure, whatever. And as I was finishing up, my date walked in and saw me with this other guy, and he walked right out. And then he texted me a few minutes later saying that I was a jerk for having a drink with another guy when I was there to be with him. I mean, am I a jerk for taking a drink before a date?
Yeah.
I'd say no. I can see it being a little feather ruffling for the actual date. We're all adults here. You move on. I could see that working. I do, I guess, live in a dream world based on the look on Tony's face right now. So,
no, I just think you look dreamy. She, first she should make out with him first and see if there's a connection, and then accept the drink. But she could have waited the 5-10 minutes for her date to show up to get a drink. So no, you politely go, thank you for offering. I appreciate the flirtation, but
she could have said, you know what, I'd like to have a drink with you. I'm actually waiting on a date. Maybe at another time we could meet and you could buy me that drink. That would be more acceptable.
Or order an entree or an appetizer instead.
Or order two, one for the date that's coming. You can buy me a couple of drinks. I'll need a couple of Long Islands here.
Could she say, I can't have this drink with you, but I will accept the cash equivalent of whatever drink you were about to. Is that acceptable on any level? Candace, let us have it.
I'm not sure I would do this, but I like this girl. And she got there early. Her date should have got there early, too. So his fault.
Right on.
You snooze, you lose. Okay.
Candace rocking the Yasmin tip on that. I like that.
I would be excited to come in and rob this man's woman away. Going, I got a date with her and you're buying her a drink, you sucker. You think you're getting somewhere. Allow me to take her to another table and wine and dine her in front of your miserable failed attempt to steal a date away from another guy. I don't know. I mean, this is one of those slippery slope kind of deals.
Well, hang on. Is there a moment in that conversation where you jump down and knock out some push-ups?
The KQ Morning Show.
The most searches in Minnesota for this weird type of porn.
Fluffies.
Pokemon. Pokemon porn. Candace, what the hell are you watching?
Well, I love Pokemon. I just don't know if I need it that way.
How's it spelled? Is it Pokemon?
Weird.
Well, different strokes for different folks. I don't. Minnesota, old man. Now, wait a minute.
Oh.
Why is that weird? What's wrong with old man porn?
What?
I'm just saying. I'm ready to go, Coach.
The best of the KQ Morning Show.
Paul Rodgers, as great a singer as this planet's ever produced. Paul Rodgers has a new album out, his first solo album in many years. It's called Midnight Rose. It's available everywhere you might want to find some music. Welcome to the KQ Morning Show. Paul Rodgers, thank you for calling, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Minnesota. How are you guys?
Much better now that we're hanging out with you a little bit. The song sounds great. The album Midnight Rose, first solo studio album in 25 years. And Paul, I have to start with this fact that you've shared just recently. This record's a bit of a miracle because you've been dealing with some health issues. And correct me if I'm wrong, but not that long ago, you actually were unable to sing.
Well, I was unable to speak too, or brush my teeth, or tie my shoelaces. So it is really miraculous. And I do thank hyperbarics, which is oxygen under pressure, and that's given me a new lease of life. And I've had a long rest, so I was able to go in the studio really, really fresh with a lot of new material. It's been really exciting.
That's an incredible time. How long were you without the ability to speak?
Oh, I don't even know, to be honest. I mean, my wife was looking after me at the time. It seemed to go on forever for me, but it lasted 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks, no verbal. Wow. I mean, because I went through a time of in my mind, I knew what I wanted to say, but it came out like garbage. It was very, very frightening. But of course, with the oxygen, it reignites the mitochondria, so I'm told, in the brain, and re-sparks your connections. It's really good.
Well, it certainly did the job. Yeah, consider those connections re-sparked. This album, a bunch of new material, but this didn't start out necessarily as an album. That wasn't the original plan. It was really more just jamming and writing in the studio with friends. Correct?
Yeah, I did. As I say, I had a good rest. So we were locked down. I had a good rest, and I took the opportunity to play acoustic guitar, write a few songs, and I've got a bunch together. And I thought, let's just go in the studio and see what happens. So I got 4 guys together. Well, 3 guys plus me, which makes 4. And like a drummer, bass player, guitar player, and singer. That's like a basic rock and roll outfit, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
And we transferred these acoustic guitar songs to an electric album, mostly.
Paul Rodgers is with us on the KQ Morning Show. The new album, Midnight Rose, is available everywhere and more than worth your time. Paul, this album has been released on Sun Records, which is really cool to see. But I have to ask, how did the association with Sun, I mean, that's the album where rock and roll was invented, as they like to say, and I don't think anybody can argue with that. How did you end up working with Sun?
Well, Elvis Presley, et al. I mean, great people. And Sun Records is such a iconic label. So in a conversation with the music conglomerate Primary Wave, who owns Sun Records, when they asked what I was doing, I said, well, I'm just ligging about in the studio with Ray Roper and Todd Ronning and Rick Feddick, that's the guitarist, drummer, and bass player. And they said, well, look, when you get done, Sun Records would be very interested in releasing those tracks, so give us a call. So that really was a kicker, and I thought, well, let's get down here and make an album. And, Midnight Rose.
Paul, I got to ask, a kid from Middlesboro who grows up listening to a lot of American rock and roll. I mean, your first band was called the Roadrunners, right, after the Junior Walker song.
Yes, it was.
So you're this kid you're this guy in Middlesboro, and then if somebody said, oh, yeah, by the way, you're going to be on Sun Records one day, that wouldn't have even sounded possible, I would imagine.
No, not even slightly. I mean, Elvis Presley was some kind of god over there in great big America to me. Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you went to Memphis? I'm sure it was, was it with Free or would it have been with Bad Company?
Well, I don't remember the first time because life was such a blur. Oh, yeah, we went to Graceland with Andy Fraser. The first time we went to Memphis, yes, with Andy Fraser, actually, the bass player from Free.
Sure.
And beside Elvis's house there was a lot. It was an empty lot at the time. And we sneaked over the fence, and we were about to climb into Elvis's garden. I don't know what we would think we were doing. Fans, trying to see what was going on. A security guy came up to the and we went, we're from England. I guess we're a rock band, and we would like to see Elvis. They said, well, he's not there, But anyway, he said to us, jump in the car, and I'll take you around. I can do that for you. And I was like, wow, we're going inside. So we went in, opened the gates, and we went inside. They've got this beautiful musical gates there. We drove around, and he was saying, well, see that building there? That's full of gold records from floor to ceiling. And we were like, wow.
Yeah.
It was quite amazing. Yeah.
That's an important lesson to learn, which is a little bit of charm and an English accent can get you anything in America.
Dreams can come true, It's good to wish, good to hope.
Paul Rodgers is with us on the KQ Morning Show. Paul, it's not just my opinion. I know this for a fact. It's the opinion of millions of people. On the very short list of greatest vocalists in rock history sits Paul Rodgers. You can talk about Elvis, and hell, you can talk about Little Richard, and you can bring it all the way up to someone of a generation after you, Chris Cornell, whoever comes to mind, but you're firmly on that list.
Wow, man. That is so amazing. It really is. Some awesome names there, really.
It's an incredible thing to be a part of that. And of course, part of you being on that list is not thinking about being on that list, of course. That's the good thing. But I've had conversations with musicians and especially vocalists for years. And it's that thing when what about this? Oh, remember that record, this? And you start throwing names out there. And it's just, the way musicians just talk about music all the time. And there's always there's a Paul Rodgers part of that conversation that I've been a part of hundreds of times. And the hushed tone that immediately follows your name is always something I enjoy because I'm a Free lifer. I'm a Bad Company kid. I grew up with Bad Company, found Free after the fact, and have followed you all along the way. And then I listened to your new song. I listened to something from your new album, and it's like, oh, that's still Paul Rodgers. That, to my ear, you haven't lost a damn thing, and it's just a pleasure to speak with you.
Well, thank you, sir. That's wonderful. Thank you indeed.
Yeah, I mean, you have so much emotion in your voice and your lyrics. I mean, they've affected me, and I think that's why you can connect to so many people. Is there a song or an album throughout your career that affected you the most deeply?
You mean by someone else or by me?
You.
Oh, by me. Ooh, probably actually Midnight Rose, to be honest. I think this is like my life's work in many respects. It does kind of sound like I'm blowing my own trumpet, but toot toot.
Hey, everybody's. It's a good thing to be able to say I just painted my own masterpiece. If you want to hear Paul Rodgers in totality in the year 2023, he did us all a solid and gave us a chance to do just that on Sun Records. This album is available anywhere you want to find music, easily done online for sure. Paul, I know you don't plan to hit the road and do any tour dates with this. Are there any live gigs for any one-offs here or there you've got your eye on? Are people calling you to ask if you can appear? Are we going to see you on stage anytime soon? That's what I'm getting at.
I can't say no and I can't say yes. There are no actual plans yet, but I mean, I recently did the tribute to Leonard Skinner on the Country and Western Awards. So, we'll see. But right now, I don't have any plans to actually tour.
Well, whenever that happens, if it does, whatever you're appearing anywhere, we'll be talking about it and we'll be watching and listening. We are all, I'm speaking for the four of us on this show, we are all longtime devotees of your work, sir. So thank you so much for taking the time to call in this morning.
Oh, thank you indeed. That's so great, Steve.
All the best, Paul. Thanks.
God bless.
So anyway, Paul Rodgers is cool.
He's so cool and he's so cute and he's so sweet. And I just love him.
And a lot of people sometimes forget that Jimmy Page went to him first when he was looking for a vocalist. He offered him the job. I think he was doing his thing with probably Free at the time. By the way, none other than Tom Petty used to have a little show called Buried Treasures that he would throw out there every once in a while. I became a big fan of and turned me on to Mr. Big by Free. That's on an album called Fire and Water.
Yep.
After you're done listening to, Paul Rodgers' latest, maybe go dig that one up.
Yeah, I said to him, I'm a Bad Company kid because, I came of age, Bad Company, 70s radio. They were everywhere. They were omnipresent. Yeah. I didn't own a Bad Company record, but you didn't have to.
Right.
Like, it was just on every party, every dance, every whatever.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I knew Free, like a lot of people, I just knew All Right Now. One of the biggest songs of the decade. But it was later, it was in my early 20s that I went back and listened to all the Free albums, like found them from the jump. Tons of Sobs, Fire and Water, the album just titled Free, and digging into those. And then, and they're mind-blowing. And Free's one of my favorite bands ever for a million reasons. And if you're digging into Free, the thing you have to remember on their first album, which is as solid a debut album that has ever been released, they were 16, 17, and two of them were 18. Mm-hmm. They were kids.
Really?
Paul Rodgers is 18 on the first Free album. Bassist Andy Frazier is 16. Mm-hmm. And you put that record on now, and you think to yourself, these are mature, refined musicians who are playing live in a studio and giving so much space to each other. There's so much air in those songs. If you aren't familiar with those records, you'll know what I mean as soon as you hear them. The guy hit the ground running at 18 years old, and to this day, find a Paul Rodgers track that doesn't send a chill up your spine. I defy you.
What a humble guy. He was genuinely touched by your comments.
Candace got him to say toot toot.
He's cute. He's just as and I've had like I said, conversations. I don't mean to be name dropping not to make me sound cool at all. I've just met a bunch of people, but that's what you do on tour with a band. You're opening for. We've played with Plant. We've played with Jimmy Page a lot. Hung out with AC/DC, Brian Johnson. You sit around Brian Johnson. You say, "Who are your singers?" Paul. Rodgers, that bastard. He gets better. It's right there. Kelly Jones and Stereophonics, a band I toured with. Kelly Jones is as fine a singer of his generation as there is. And you go, what about Free? And he'll just look at you and go, Paul, man. Paul. Everyone, he's Paul. Just, Paul, man. I've had that conversation so many times with so many people. It's just, he's just as good as there. I really mean that. He's on my personal Mount Rushmore.
The best of the KQ Morning Show.
Back to the best of the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I remember my dreams. There's great heroism, there's great cowardice, and everything in between. It's like the Odyssey, the Iliad. It's all going on. Candace, you had a dream last night.
Last night I had a dream that I was given the opportunity to do a comedy stand-up show, and I was all nervous, and I had all these jokes written down on these papers, and I was shuffling around. I thought I did okay, but then they did like a survey at the end, and
right.
The audience said they were very disappointed in my performance.
Candace has an insecurity about how she comes across. Freud would just be like, next. I love the survey aspect of that dream.
Survey
says
Not funny.
I had a
Not
dream that I was
funny.
doing stand-up comedy. I was 4, maybe 5 years old when I had this dream. And my big joke, I was on stage. You know what my dad does? He's a garbage man. You know where he lives? In a garbage can. And the crowd erupted. It was unbelievably hilarious.
Oh, my God. I know you can remember that so clearly. Oh, my God. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love the roar of the audience. Your little 5-year-old ears were like, it's the greatest sound I've ever heard.
Thank you. Good night.
I still dream a lot about drumming or being at a gig, and I'm with my former band mates in the Black Crowes, and then they hand me the set list, and I literally don't know any of the songs. And they're like, 5 minutes. It's like right before you walk out there, and I'm going, oh, my God. And they're looking at me like, oh, you jerk.
Mm-hmm.
You got a gig set.
Dead air dream,
Yeah.
when you're a DJ. But I used to always sit up in bed and go, dead air! Yeah, honey, go back to bed. It's not dead air? No, this is a good time for dead air. It's midnight.
Dead air's cool right now, bud. Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah. That's good stuff.
The best of the KQ Morning Show.
A woman says she was sexually assaulted by a toy at a Japanese restaurant. Isabel and her husband James were visiting Nashville. So Monday night, they take the entire fam, the grandkids, everybody out to one of those Japanese hibachi restaurants. It's fun. The chef cooks your meal right in front of you. They put on a show. Candace loves them.
I love it.
And when it was time for the chef to squirt the water on the grill, as they do, instead he uses a little spray bottle toy. And when you pull the pants down, the little boy pees. And so it's part of this guy's act. But as he was squirting the water from the little pee boy toy, a little bit of it got on Isabel. And she freaked out. They called the cops. Listen to Isabel and James now absolutely lose it.
It peed on me, basically.
It shot water out of its penis.
Doesn't have a penis.
Out of its wee-wee area. Does that make sense?
In front of our minor children and grandchildren.
It really didn't have a wiener, but you got the point.
It was a sexual style assault on my wife.
I mean, just because it didn't have a weenie.
Just because somebody may cut off that little piece of plastic to say, okay, it's not there anymore, doesn't change the fact that you're getting peed on.
Actually, you're not getting peed on at all. Yeah, you don't know where to start with these people, and that's what makes it so aggravating, because you couldn't possibly argue with them. They're just, at a whole nother level of ignorance than I've ever experienced.
It peed on me.
And she enjoyed it a little bit. She felt funny. She had a feeling she hadn't felt with James. And what's this with the minor kids and grandkids?
Yeah, they're going to laugh harder than anybody.
Exactly. How can you have minor children and grandchildren? They both can't be minors, can they? Well,
they can't go to hibachis anymore. They're going to ruin everything for everybody that likes to get squirted.
Watch out for pieces of plastic. That's all I have to say to that.
Maybe she's a squirter.
Basically.
It shot water out of its penis.
Out of its wee-wee area. Does that make sense?
In front of our minor children and grandchildren.
It really didn't have a wiener, but you got the point.
It was a sexual style assault on my wife.
I mean, just because it didn't have a weenie.
Just because somebody may cut off that little piece of plastic to say, okay, it's not there anymore, doesn't change the fact that you're getting peed on.
Yes, it does. It's not pee, and it's plastic.
Get back to Texas, get in the house, slam the door shut, pull the blinds, and don't ever leave. That's kind of where I'm going with that.
Careful with your wee-wee area.
Careful with the wee-wee area. No charges pending, by the way. The cops said, just get the hell out of Nashville.
What if at the hibachi grill they ordered the American meal? Just get a sandwich.
Yeah.
I used to work at a Greek restaurant, and the very, very nice Texas gypsies would come in. They were very nice, great, excellent tippers, paid in cash. They would get gyros. Usually you get them traditionally with tzatziki sauce and all the stuff.
Yeah.
They just had us put plain old American cheese, just drown it in American cheese.
Yeah.
The best of the KQ Morning Show.
92 KQRS. Good morning, Zep, Candace, and Tony. We have a professional comedian, Amber Preston. Well, Amber, you're pretty cool, too. You're one of us here. You're a Midwest gal. Did I hear that you're from Fargo? Is that true?
I am. I am originally from Fargo. I was actually just there performing over Thanksgiving, and I love going back to the Midwest to perform, specifically Fargo, and with my family, because there's nothing more humbling than a Midwest parents, my father. That's the show. It's a huge show. It's almost sold out, the biggest venue. And my dad's like, well, there's a Lions Club pancake feed in the morning. You might, people might not want to be out late. So,
geez, Dad, come on.
Yeah.
Plenty of people want to get out. My mom. Years after I had been in radio, this wasn't just the first year, but years after I'd been in radio, when I was together with Mom and we were meeting someone, and they'd ask what I did, I said, well, I'm in radio. My mom would quickly interrupt and say, that's what he's just doing for now. He's going to get a real job soon. I'm like, no, Mom, this is it. This is my career. She just, something about your kid running off to radio or being a stand-up comedian that Midwest parents just don't wrap their mind around, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I pay my bills and I'm living my dream. So I don't know. I mean, I still eat a lot of dairy. I don't know what they're so concerned about. I'm doing okay here in Los Angeles,
Yeah. All right, deal. I mean, L.A. is one of those places you go to. You want to be a stand-up comedian. Of course, that's a hub out there for stand-up comedians. How long have you been out in Los Angeles?
Gosh, I was just realizing it's been, because the seasons here are, hot, very, very hot, slightly hotter. It's nothing like the snow, although I still get Minneapolis, declare snow emergency alerts on my phone, which is a nice reminder of, yes, I'm making the right decision. It's 8 years, this week, because I remember trying to leave and it was so cold that we couldn't pack the car because of frostbite. We had to wait a couple days. So, it's been about 8 years, and I miss it sometimes, and then other times I like the sunshine.
Amber Preston is bringing her nice tan back here to the Midwest for us. Performing with Shiloh Blake at the Laugh Camp Comedy Club this Friday and Saturday night. These are 8 o'clock shows. The prodigal child returning back to tell us some jokes.
I do have a drunk or a little kid. I know I missed the game, but I was listening, and I think that's so fun because, what's the difference, really? Drunk toddler, drunk adult, sober toddler, you get it.
Right.
Although I've been to Wisconsin, sober toddlers, anyway. Okay, if I may, you guys can guess, I peed my pants and then outside, and then I played in the snow and instead made snow angels to cover it up.
Amber peed her pants and then made snow angels outside to cover up the fact that she had peed her pants. Candace, was she a little kid or a drunk adult?
That one's hard.
Yeah.
I want to say drunk, but I'm going to say a little kid.
Okay, and Tony?
I think Amber has a mischievous side. I'm going to go drunk adult.
Yeah, I like that. You split the vote. I'm going to go with drunk adult on this one, Amber.
Yeah, well, I guess I was at the University of Minnesota college student. That was a strong word, but I vividly remember thinking I was so stinking smart, like drunk, walking home. We'd always pee at the hotel lobby at the Radisson when it was a Radisson, back to the dorms, and we the door was locked or something, and I was like, I've got a brilliant idea. Man, did I think I really fooled everyone, and now I've just given it away. So I'd say drunk adult.
Well, drunk adult. I love it. That would have been perfect for our game show, by the way. And you're right. The lines are blurred between our drunk adult escapades and our little kid stuff. Amber Preston, our guest this morning at the Laugh Camp Comedy Club. That's this Friday and Saturday night. That's what we do here, in the Midwest. When it gets really cold like this, we like to go inside and we like to laugh about it and forget our problems. I see that you're also obsessed with old cookbooks.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, it's like I love them so much, specifically Midwest, because they'll be really passive aggressive, like Judy's best lemon bars, Helen's very good lemon bar. I tried to find. I have a cookbook that has a recipe that has a little blurb that's like, we found that we were living in Des Moines and our neighbor was from Texas and she put chili in her casserole, but we can't afford to stay up all night with heartburn. Some of us have to work the next day, and it's like it's all variations on cream of mushroom soup or how to feed 100 people deviled eggs, you know?
That's what Steve Gorman, who's not with us today.
Yeah.
When he joined us from the southeast down there in Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia. He'd lived in that area for most of his life. And he got up here and goes, what's hot dish? I said, you know what casserole is? I said, same thing. It's just take cream of mushrooms, dump it in some egg noodles, and then there are various ways to dress it up if you're going with the breadcrumbs or
tater tots.
Things. Tater tots. Lots of salt, of course. Don't forget to dump in a couple of cups of
but
salt.
Nothing else. No other seasoning. Don't you dare grab anything. Just maybe some salt and pepper, but don't you dare grab a chili flake. How dare you?
No, my mother had a spice rack. My mom, the epitome of a Midwest mother in the kitchen, had a spice rack that was untouched. It was like a piece of art hanging on the wall, but not once did she say, "Oh, I wonder what this cumin is for. I wonder what this might be used for." No, it was salt and pepper and and a bit of butter and bread, and you're on your way. That's a meal.
I mean, what more do you need, honestly?
I do kind of want to go home. My mom is one of those people right there on the kitchen counter that has 15. If it's a cookbook that comes out of church or school or wherever, Mom buys the cookbook. And she has them all lined up there. Now you're making me think I want to go home, have a couple of drinks, maybe a Coke or two, and start reading some of Mom's cookbooks.
Oh, there's always like little prayers on how to make your day better and keep your husband happy. There's always, I guarantee your mother has this, there's always a rhubarb recipe that's been cut out of a newspaper and slipped into the book. Always. There's always pencil notes. Real, nothing too flashy, real mild-mannered, like, this one's pretty good, or a little star next to a recipe. Just the slightest hint that something was better than fine, because everything's fine. Yeah, it was fine. Everything was fine.
It's funny because it's true. Well, you can take the young lady out of Minnesota, North Dakota, and send her out to big old L.A., but you can't take the Fargo out of you. You're right on this. We're talking with Amber Preston. Have you been at the Laugh Camp Comedy Bar? By the way, you have two shows, Friday and Saturday night at 8 p.m. Go to the website, camp-bar.net. Have you been over there before?
I have. I was there last January because I'm really great at planning travel, and what better time to visit Minnesota?
Right.
It's going to be so cool. Actually, I don't think it's going to be so bad, but I can handle it. I can do it. So, yes, I've been there before.
When the crowds are going to turn out for this. In the summer, we have options. We're thinking, maybe it's it's going to be light out till 9:30. Do I want to go to a comedy show, or maybe we're going to hang out a little bit? But in the winter, it's a no-brainer. I want to go somewhere, and I want someone to make me laugh. Damn it!
Yeah.
And that someone is you, Amber.
I want a cheap drink. I want to be huddled in the dark with strangers. I don't want to make eye contact with anyone but the person on stage. Like, you're my people. I'm ready.
Yeah, and Shiloh Blake is with you now. I'm not familiar with Shiloh. Have you performed with her? Do you know? Or Shiloh?
Yeah, last year, and fasting. Like, she started during during lockdown. I was like, none of the words you're saying make sense to me. Like, starting stand up when it was Zoom shows and then super underground. So she got all the passion and the zest and the zeal for life that I once had.
Before you gave up.
Yeah, exactly. But in a funny way. I want your listeners to know I gave up in a very funny way. So come to the show.
Well, you put out an album. You're talking about lockdown. I see that you released an album just as we went into lockdown. Was that a good time to release that? Well, because you can't really get out and tour on it, can you?
No. Well, that was the thing. I was on the road. I was performing in the Midwest. I was in Fargo, and then I was doing shows in Chicago, and then had gearing up and more shows in Michigan. And as the album was about to be released, and then in Chicago, it was rumblings of things starting to shut down, and then I on Thursday morning got an email, shows for the rest of the tour were canceled. So it was weird and strange. And then I spent a couple weeks figuring out how to live stream on YouTube, on all the things, and because what else were we doing? And so I did an album release show on Zoom, and then live streamed it out. So it was fun. It was a weird, strange thing. I mean, I guess it was a good time to release it. No, people had nothing to do but be at home. So far, so good.
Still out there. You'll probably have some copies at the Laugh Camp Comedy Club this weekend, I would imagine. Do you have a website people can go to? I know you have social media. Probably.
Yeah. Preston Party is all my social media. You can find more cookbook recipes and general shenanigans, and then amberpreston.com is my website.
I like it, Amber. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning. Have fun while you're in town. Now, one last question.
Yeah.
Because this happened to my daughter who's living out in Las Vegas. She's been out there for a while, and when she comes home, she wonders if we have any of her old coats laying around because she's jettisoned all of her warm clothing because she's been out there so long. Do you have to get into town and rush over to Target and grab a sweater or something?
I feel like that has been an issue, but I did last winter. Really, I got down to the knees, new Columbia, giant puffy jacket. I do have snow boots in a couple of different friends' houses in Minneapolis, but I do have the jacket, and I do have my. I'm going to go to get my Maria's. I'm going to go to Maria's Cafe and get my corn pancakes for sure, and tell jokes. So I got two things to do when I'm in town.
Amber, thank you. We'd love to hear from you again.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Amber.
Oh, I love to
Laughing warms you up. Yeah,
Yes,
going out in the
sweet.
winter.
They remind me of my mom-in-law. Got me a cookbook when I was dating her daughter, and it was like the 3-ingredient cookbook. So basically she's like, oh, Tony's just helpless. He can't do it. That's complicated enough.
That's a cookbook I would actually open up because I don't even have half of these utensils. I think someone already made this for me somewhere, and all I have to do is go find it or have it delivered to me. Yeah. So not much in the kitchen, but I'm impressed by people that are and appreciate them very much.
The best of the KQ Morning Show.
Anybody here ever punch someone at work?
I did at a gig one time. I was doing a trivia night. The audience just getting super smashed. The question was the diameter of a golf cup. And some guy goes, the size of your wife's. Derogatory term for a lady part. I just leapt off the stage onto him. They pull me off. They drag him out, throw him in the bar. I'll see you in the parking lot. I'll see you in the parking lot. The club DJ started playing the Rocky theme and kind of diffused the whole situation.
Damn. Candace, last fist fight you were in. Don't hold back. Who was it? What did she do?
Oh, gosh. I did get in a fight when I was in elementary school,
really?
But I got pushed into the snow, and it pushed into the yellow snow.
That's right. You came up swinging?
No, I just started crying. Well, I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover.
Maybe it was Mountain Dew and wasn't what you think in the snow.
Mountain Dew doesn't leave that hole, though, you know?
Yeah, you're right.
My daughter, Marley, got into a fight at school when she was in elementary school. And she was a karate student. And a boy was picking on her and telling her, you're not so tough. And he finally just pushed her down. And she stood up, and then he said, and then he balled up a fist and said, I'm going to punch you. Which, really a bad idea to tell someone you're going to punch him. Just punch him. Yeah. Anyway, just quick tip there. Yeah. And she stepped back and took her pose, and then he laughed at her, and so she roundhouse kicked him in the face. Nice. And he went down like a sack of potatoes.
That's nice.
He went down like a sack of russets. And then she, of course, burst into tears.
I almost duked it out at, I was hosting a karaoke night at Blondie's.
Okay, first of all, I'm sorry, Tony. I'm going to let you tell this story. Zepp goes, well, I was hosting trivia night. And now you're going, I was hosting karaoke night. These are great fight stories.
Isn't it? How ridiculous. Well, this guy was upset because he thought he should have won with his Bob Dylan rendition. But no, and we actually took it out into the parking lot. We started to circle, and the fists went up. Finally, we're just like, what the hell are we doing? This is karaoke night. And it kind of diffused, and then we did the old, hug it out. Probably seems strange. I used to fight a lot as a kid, almost daily. But like you said earlier, the trauma of it, I would get in the fight, and even though I'd win, I would cry.
I think your general demeanor, which is completely
a gentle jokester,
gentle, very, very calm. You're a walking olive branch for people. But I think what that is just a mask. I think you're a volcanic, just a source of pure rage lives right within you.
Seething anger, volcanic.
Tony Lee always just a couple steps away from truly exploding into many pieces.
I savagely bully him when we're off the air. I'm going to rethink that. Those are the ones you have to watch out for, the quiet ones,
Candace, do we have a caller? Good morning.
Good morning, Steve. How are you, buddy?
All is well on this end, brother. What do you got for us?
I used to live back in Chicago.
Okay.
And ran some nightclubs. We used to, unfortunately, had to fight all the time, including a couple of celebrities we had to light up. Got a little handsy. Yep.
Oh, come on. Come on. Give us names, baby.
The Burnout from the Breakfast Club.
Judd.
I can't remember.
Judd Nelson.
Yeah. Bender.
Yeah,
right,
he's
Mike
a troublemaker. You could see that. He tied his flannel around his waist.
Couldn't keep his hands off the waitresses behind, so we had to light him up and then throw him onto Rush Street and let the cops pick him up.
Wow.
You want to see boys fight, jump in anytime you want. They really don't want to fight. They're just being little tough guys.
Sure.
You get two girls fighting,
Oh, yeah.
stay out of the way.
Yep.
Let them go. Hair ripped out, clothes torn, nails on the floor. It gets nasty.
Yeah, girl fight, man. Look out.
Yeah.
If Candace gets those claws out, I'm running. Trust me. I am
Ever
out.
been to that mud wrestling? It's crazy.
Get the KQ Morning Show podcast wherever you listen. 92 KQRS.